All right, thanks so much for being with us here on Atlanta News First Plus. I'm Joy Lim-Nakrin. I just want to let you know that we're following developing news surrounding the probe into possible election interference here in Georgia during the 2020 presidential election. As we've been sharing with you, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis put law enforcement officials in our area on notice about possible unrest this coming summer, when she would be planning to announce some possible indictments related to that probe. My colleague, Atlanta News First reporter Rebecca Schramm, has more.
Fani Willis's letter is a warning shot. It's a messaging tool.
On Monday, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis penned a letter to local law enforcement asking them to prepare for heightened security this summer following an announcement about her investigation into Georgia's 2020 general election, which she alleges the Trump campaign interfered with.
This is her telling everyone she plans on charging the former president of the United States.
Metro Atlanta defense attorney Joshua Schiffer says the letter's verbiage implies that she's bringing charges against Donald Trump, which could provoke a strong public reaction. Willis told police in the letter the decision will be announced between July 11th and September 1st.
If it was going to be someone lesser, if it was going to be one of the local politicians or someone with less priority, I don't believe she would have used these public resources or gone in this route.
The Atlanta Police Department released a statement Monday night confirming that they received the letter. It says in part, "We stand ready to respond to demonstrations to ensure the safety of those in our communities and those exercising their First Amendment right, or to address illegal activity should the need arise." Right now, Schiffer says it's unclear what charges former President Donald Trump could face in Georgia and who else might be involved.
There's a lot that's happening behind the scenes, and everybody's waiting to see exactly what's going to happen.
Chelsea Bime for Atlanta News First.
And here is that decision letter. I also want to let you know that there are more battles for the former president, because today jury selection in the sexual assault lawsuit against former President Trump is beginning in New York. Former Elle magazine writer Jean Carroll is claiming that Trump raped her in a New York department store more than 25 years ago. This is something that Trump denies. This federal civil trial expected to take 1 to 2 weeks, and Trump is actually not required to attend. All of this coming as President Joe Biden has announced his bid for re-election. That happened earlier today. So I want to bring in, to help break all this down, Erica Wilson, who is a Metro Atlanta-based attorney at law, joining us. And Erica, I know you've been following all of these developments very closely, and of course, District Attorney Fani Willis's probe into possible election interference. First of all, what's your reaction to all of these developments?
Wow, so that's a lot. But in terms of the issues with Fani Willis, I am a little surprised that she is kind of announcing in advance that it will be coming this summer. And she's done the right thing. She's preemptively making preparations. She's kind of watched and saw what they did in New York and trying to mimic that in order to be able to kind of mitigate, I guess, any unrest that she feels may be coming. So it's certainly going to be interesting to kind of see and follow, because we first have to get to the indictment. We know that she'll be presenting it to the grand jury in the summer at some point, which she is hopeful, based on the secret grand jury's findings, that they will come down with some sort of indictment.
Yeah, and I want to ask you, because as we mentioned, there's a lot happening surrounding this. So you've got now this indictment coming down this summer, is what it sounds like. And then you've got, at the same time, this lawsuit up in New York. And at the same time, you've got Biden announcing his bid for re-election. So, I mean, it's a lot to kind of get your mind around, but I want to ask you if these things are related at all, and how could they impact each other?
Well, I'll say this, there are a lot of politics in politics. And so, you can always be sure that there is something strategic behind timing with everything. Everything is purposeful and deliberate. And so in terms of the indictment with Fani Willis, certainly she's wise to kind of ramp up her efforts now that we have the indictment here in New York. And again, even with the charges that are going to be forthcoming, or the trial that will be forthcoming with the jury selection that's going on now, is also very strategic. I mean, you can certainly understand that there may be people pushing to kind of get this done in advance of the election year
Bonnie
coming up in
Willis's letter.
2024.
And I want to ask you, we heard from Josh Schiffer, a local attorney who we both know. His take on it was just that this was kind of like a warning shot, that Fani Willis it's intentional, that she has put it out there that, the indictment could be coming this summer, and that she's put law enforcement on notice, and that's meant to kind of invoke some kind of reaction. What kind of reaction would she be looking for?
At this point, I don't know that it's necessarily looking for a reaction. I think what she's trying to do is to ensure that we don't have, issues piled on top of issues. Again, we did see the indictment come down in New York, and it went relatively, unnoticed in terms of there wasn't any unrest. We didn't see any protests or any riots of that sort. Now, I'm not sure what the charges will be in her indictment, but I'm guessing that she is anticipating, even based on the charges or even the mere fact that he is being indicted yet again, coming fresh off the heels of this indictment in New York, and then also now we sit here today, it'll be fresh off the trial that he's facing now for some rape charges some years back. She wants to ensure, the safety of the community, and so really her letter was a warning shot, but it's also to give preparation, because you don't want to inundate and overwhelm law enforcement kind of at the last minute, the day before, in terms of being able to prepare enough officers, and even if she has to employ different agencies to be involved to ensure that the city is kind of not in a disrest, in an unrest. Rather, she would be wise and prudent to go ahead and start allowing the different agencies to make those preparations in advance.
Interesting, because I've heard some critics say, well, if she's going to do it, why doesn't she just do it? Why does she have to put this letter out there and kind of give like a warning signal or something like that? And you think it's genuinely because of just public safety concerns?
I'm not going to say it's just because of public safety, but I think the overarching reason for that would be public safety. It would be reasonably prudent now to go ahead and let everybody kind of get their affairs in order to make sure she has the necessary protocols in place, because again, these are things that are going to take time in terms of getting him in the court, getting him out of court, getting him just traversing through the city, and so there are a lot of moving parts. But I won't say that that's the only reason why, and perhaps it could just be another level of intimidation. I mean, you got to figure if Trump now, while he's literally sitting kind of watching this civil trial unfold, now he gets this letter from District Attorney Willis, it's got to be, an intimidation tactic, maybe in hopes of inundating him with all of these legal problems, in hopes that maybe, we can kind of see some resolution outside of the court.
Yeah. So, we talked about how, I love what you said, there's a lot of politics in politics. So you alluded to the fact that the timing of this may be strategic, that she's announcing these potential indictments and it comes after the New York indictment. Why does that kind of, give her a little bit of strength?
Well, it gives her a little bit of strength in that we've seen it, right? Now, the last time we were here, we were talking about the indictment, that we were saying that was a case of first impression, because at the time it was something that was completely unprecedented. We had never seen a former president who had actually been indicted on criminal charges. And so now that she's seen that it has been done, whether or not the indictment in New York carries any teeth, she feels confident now that it can be done, and it can be done, very strategically and safely.
I want to ask you, I see some people writing in on Facebook. We have someone named Ella Bates Davis. She writes, when will the people seen on video pulling out all those found votes be brought forward? What is your response to that?
With any trial, what we're going to see is all the evidence that will come out during the trial, and certainly all of that will be based on what either side seeks to present. Again, if the district attorney wants to present that evidence, certainly they will. It may or may not necessarily be something that the defense would want to present, but that would be the time to kind of watch and follow the trial and see kind of as it unfolds what evidence will actually come out.
We have another Facebook viewer who says, last name Sims. I think the first name is Kinfolk. I'm going to guess that might be a little, pseudonym. But says no one is above the law, period. So, I mean, when the New York indictment came down, that's essentially what prosecutors said, and what, you know, Democrats said, is that no one is above the law. That this is what that's really what this indictment is about. And then, you know, we had the former president saying, well, this is really a political witch hunt. I mean, do you think it's kind of the same conversation surrounding this whole thing in Fulton County?
I mean, again, you know, I'll say it again. I said it before. You were tickled pink by it. There's a lot of politics in politics, and so, and what I mean by that, nothing is happenstance when you're dealing with politics. Everything has to be strategic, and so would there be some sort of strategy? We're in 2023 now, you know, as we kind of buttress up against, you know, 2024 coming and going to the upcoming election year. I think a lot of this, you know, the timing would be strategic in order for, you know, whatever side to effectuate whatever they're trying to effectuate.
Well, let me ask you this. So, you know, you're talking about the upcoming election. I mean, you're a legal expert, so not a political expert. Because I was going to ask you how does this impact the election? So I don't want to go there with you. I'm going to ask you the other way. How does the election impact these cases?
You know, just in terms of it's all kind of inextricably linked. These are not mutually exclusive concepts, because again, we have at the forefront of all of these legal issues is a former president who is going to run for president again. And so we have a lot of things kind of hanging in the winds to kind of see what happens this year in terms of even with this civil trial that's going on and all of these indictments that will be forthcoming. So that could definitely impact whether or not Trump is even going to be able to run. Certainly, even if he has pending charges, that's not going to preclude him from running for president. So how does that impact the voters and their decisions as to whether or not we have a president who's been charged and has current pending charges from some very serious allegations? And so, you know, these things we're not going to be able to pull apart. I mean, these things are kind of going to run in tandem until November of next year.
For sure, for sure. Well, thank you so much, Erica Wilson, attorney here in the Atlanta metro area. We really appreciate you joining us and sharing your expertise and analysis.